How do I get SQLAlchemy to correctly insert a Unicode ellipsis into a mySQL table? I am trying to parse an RSS feed with FeedParser and insert it into a mySQL table using SQLAlchemy. I was actually able to get this running just fine, but today the feed had an item with an ellipsis character in the description and I get the following error. Unicode encode error, Latin 1 codec can't encode character U''U 2026 in position 35, ordinal not in range 256. If I add the convert_Unicode equals true option to the engine, I am able to get the insert to go through, but the ellipsis doesn't show up, it's just weird characters. This seems to make sense since to the best of my knowledge there is no horizontal ellipsis in Latin 1. Even if I set the encoding to UTF-8, it doesn't seem to make a difference. If I do an insert using FBMIadmin and include the ellipsis, it goes through fine. I'm thinking I just don't understand character encodings or how to get SQLAlchemy to use one I specify. Does anyone know how to get the text to go in without weird characters? Update. I think I have figured this one out, but I'm not really sure why it matters. Here is the code. Here's the output /traceback from running the code without the charset option. So it looks like adding the charset to the mySQL connect string did it. I suppose it defaults to Latin 1? I had tried setting the encoding flag on content_engine to UTF-8 and that did nothing. Anyone know why it would use Latin 1 when the tables and fields are set to UTF-8 Unicode? I also tried encoding item description, using encode CP 1252 before sending it off, and that worked as well even without adding the charset option to the connection string. That shouldn't have worked with Latin 1, but apparently it did. I've got the solution but would love an answer, smile.
The error message seems to indicate that some Python language code is trying to convert the character /U 2026 into a Latin 1, ISO 8859-1, string, and it is failing. Not surprising, that character is U plus 2026 horizontal ellipsis, which has no single equivalent character in ISO 8859-1. You fixed the problem by adding the query, !charset equals UTF-8, in your SQLAlchemy connection call. The section database URLs of the SQLAlchemy documentation tells us that a URL beginning with mySQL indicates a mySQL dialect, using the mySQL Python driver. The following section, custom BAPI connect arguments, tells us that query arguments are passed to the underlying BAPI. So, what does the mySQL Python driver make of a parameter, charset column UTF-8? Section functions and attributes of their documentation says of the charset attribute if present, the connection character set will be changed to this character set, if they are not equal. To find out what the connection character set means, we turn to 10.1.4. Connection character sets and collations of the mySQL 5.6 reference manual. To make a long story short, mySQL can have interpret incoming queries as an encoding different than the database's character set, and different than the encoding of the returned query results. Since the error message you reported looks like a Python rather than a SQL error message, I'll speculate that something in SQLAlchemy or mySQL Python is attempting to convert the query to a default connection encoding of Latin 1 before sending it. This is what triggers the error. However, the query string, $charset equals ut8, in your connect call changes the connection encoding, and the U plus 2026 horizontal ellipsis is able to get through. Update. You also ask, if I remove the charset option and then encode the description using encode CP1252, it will go through just fine. How is an ellipsis able to get through with CP1252 but not Unicode? The encoding CP1252 has a horizontal ellipsis character at byte value \x85. Thus it is possible to encode a Unicode string containing U plus 2026 horizontal ellipsis into CP1252 without error. Remember also that in Python, Unicode strings and byte strings are two different data types. It's reasonable to speculate that mySQL might have a policy of sending only byte strings over a SQL connection. Thus it would encode a query received as a Unicode string into a byte string, but would leave a query received as a byte string alone. This is speculation. I haven't looked at the source code. In the traceback you posted, the last two lines, closest to where the error occur, show the method names literal, followed by Unicode_literal. That tends to support the theory that mySQL is encoding the query it receives as a Unicode string into a byte string. When you encode the query string yourself, you bypass the part of mySQL that does this encoding differently. Note, however, that if you encode the query string differently than the mySQL connection charset calls for, then you'll have an encoding mismatch, and your text will likely be stored wrong.
Adding charset equals ut8 in the connection string definitely helps, but I encountered situations in Python 2.7 when adding convert_Unicode equals true to create _engine was also necessary. SQLAlchemy documentation says it's only to boost performance, but in my case it actually solved the problem of the wrong encoder being used.
SQLAlchemy puissance et assez